Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and there were a lot of cool comments on my top 5 Eeveelution video about how Eevee can evolve into its unreleased Eeveelutions. Now, I really didn't do much of a good job at that. Like, with my top 5, I just went off of designs and kind of cool lore aspects, or at least making a competitive Eevee that we don't have yet, and I just kind of like, well, I guess it could kind of evolve if you do this, and I did not pitch any good ideas for it, but then the comment section picked it up, and we got some really cool ones. Now, I decided to make this video about all of the unreleased Eeveelutions and their potential ways of evolving because I only did a top 5 for it. So now let's go and talk about all of the unreleased Eeveelutions, and we'll start with the normal typing because that comment that I showed, like the top comment right there, it's a really cool idea, Eevee being the first Pokemon to evolve through an Everstone. Now it will make sense in a bit, but my idea is, hey, you just have Eevee hold an Everstone, you have it evolve through normal means, like, you know, you use a stone on it to become Jolteon, and then the Everstone cancels out, but it still evolves. Because, I mean, you just could have not used the stone on it, or for all the other evolutions, like if it's leveling up, you just press B, and then it doesn't evolve anyway. So the Everstone doesn't have to be like this hard lock thing, and the Everstone does make sense when we look at Eevee's Pokedex. So people are actually commenting that a normal type Eeveelution isn't possible because of Eevee's Pokedex entry, that it has crazy genetics, and it spontaneously evolves and stuff, and it has to adapt, therefore a normal typing really wouldn't adapt. Well, first off, I think this is wrong, because it could adapt by just evolving and becoming stronger in its own neutral state, like if that is the best course of action for Eevee to take. But with the Everstone, it shows that Eevee is being forced to evolve in some way, that the conditions have been met. It has to evolve because its genetics are so crazy, but the Everstone just kind of stops it a bit. It stops that extra element from coming to play, but it still has to do something because Eevee's unstable like that, and it just evolves into a normal Eeveelution. Now, that's pretty cool. And then we can talk about Ghost Eevee. So there's been a couple of cool ideas for the Ghost Eevee, but this one was kind of like the most unsettling. One of the sad, but I guess not too bad ideas for a Ghost Eevee to exist is that when Eevee faints, you have a high enough friendship with him, and then it comes back as a ghost. Whew. That's kind of brutal that it loves you so much it doesn't want to die, and then it's a Ghost Eeveelution. Hey, it could work. But another thing I was thinking is, what if Eevee faints during the battle after leveling up, and then it evolves that way? I think that that would actually be a really cool idea. I also saw that in the comments section. I'm sorry to the person that commented. I went through all of the comments, I couldn't find it, but I thought that that was an amazing idea, that it would also be a very unique mechanic. And before we go any further, before people say that this is absolutely absurd, I mean, look at some of the evolutions that we have right now. To get Inkay into a Malamar, you have to turn your DS upside down. If anyone said that at any point in their life, they would be called just the craziest, this is impossible, it will never happen. So when it comes to evolutions, we can do all kinds of weird stuff and cause the Pokemon to evolve. I mean, this wouldn't be the most absurd evolution, and it would be one of the more creative that makes the most sense. So when it comes to Ghosts as well, I don't think we should take the lazy route. Lazy route is just Duskstone. Now, a lot of Ghost-type Pokemon evolve with it, but I just think that that's kind of the easy way out, and like, you're giving up a lot of really cool creative ideas with kind of reincarnating your Eevee into a Ghost-type Eeveelution. And then there's also the Reaper Cloth, so it only has one use right now. What if you trade Eevee with a Reaper Cloth? Like, what if we start involving that again, you know, trading Eevee to get it to evolve, or some kind of specific condition where it's holding the Reaper Cloth, maybe at night, and then gets a level up while having full friendship or something. So instead of becoming Umbreon, the Reaper Cloth corrupts that evolution and turns it into a Ghost-type. And for a quick moment, let's just go and humor the Duskstone idea. Well, that gives us an idea for the Dragon typing, because we can use a Shiny Stone on Eevee to get the Dragon typing. But if that doesn't exist, you know. Now, this is where we're getting into an interesting idea, because Eeveelutions usually come in pairs, or at least in groups or something. That if we have Duskstone, well then one of the Eevees should evolve through a Shiny Stone. It would just make a lot of sense that way. Then we can get Ghost and Dragon. While they aren't directly related, it could still make some sense right there. But let's just say neither of those are going to happen. I mean, now with the Dragon Fang, I think that since we have Seadra evolving the Kingdra through the Dragon Scale, we can have the Dragon Fang be something that works with Eevee, either through trade, level up. I mean, this is where we start to repeat ourselves, but Eevee, if it is going to eventually evolve into every typing, we're going to see some kind of similarities. I think it's really interesting that there hasn't been a trade method to evolving Eevee yet. So, I mean, that's still on the table, and a lot of these really cool ideas could actually bring Eevee into that realm. So let's go and talk about Steel and Poison. So I think the best bet with Steel and Poison is going to kind of be like Icy Rock and Mossy Rock, except not like actual rocks, but in environments. I mean, if we look at a Pokeball Factory, New Mauville, anything like that, that's an easy place for Eevee to evolve and become a Steel type. Or also there's like sewers and stuff, so that could be the Poison typing right there. Any kind of corrupted wastelandy area works for Poison typing as well on Eevee, and they have that more environmental feel to them, so I think that we can get away with that. Now when it comes to Ground and Rock, we have a problem because they're so similar. I mean, like, what differentiates Eevee from becoming a rock type as opposed to a ground type Pokemon? Either way, I was thinking that we have deserts, you know, there's multiple games with deserts in them. That could have something to do with it. Also, depending on which typing gets it, Sandstream. Imagine an Eeveelution with Sandstream. That's some cool utility right there. You're not forced into Hippowdon, you're not forced into Tyranitar. We get an extra little environmental hazard going on, and it plays like an Eevee, or at least a modified Eevee, and it'll be ground or rock. Or maybe this could be like an extremely rare case where if it evolves in the desert, it becomes a ground rock typing, gets that dual type thing going on for it. Maybe it's ground if it's in the desert, and it's rock if it evolves during a sandstorm, or levels up during a sandstorm, then evolves at the end of the battle. Something like that could work out. Now, I do know that the Hardstone is an item that exists in the game, but I feel that that's a little lazy. It's like, okay, Hardstone, Rock Eevee, we're done here. But I mean, the Hardstone's kind of like a very mundane item. I don't think we can really give it a use even for making Eevee evolve like that. So, yeah, and also then we get into like trading or leveling up while holding it, friendship, stuff like that. Either way though, I do want to see some kind of like Desert Eevee with a Sandstream ability. That would be pretty rad. Flying Eevee. Flying Eevee is probably one of the easier, no-brainer ones. Let's go and look at Soaring. Okay, Eevee evolves while in the sky, while soaring. There's also Sky Battles, so say Eevee gets a level up through like EXP share during a Sky Battle or something, that can help influence its genetic craziness and become a flying type Pokemon, which means you could use it in the next Sky Battle, which would be pretty cool. And with the Soaring, it's kind of limited to ORAS unless they decide to bring it back in Pokemon Sun and Moon or future Pokemon games. But then that means if you just have Eevee that has a Flying Eeveelution through Soaring, you're kind of forced to always have Soaring in the game permanently. I don't know if that's the direction that Game Freak wants to take. And then looking back, you know, with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we have so many opportunities for all of these Pokemon, like New Mauville, the Desert, Soaring. If they introduced evolutions or new Pokemon in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire instead of just Megas, I mean, they did Megas, so they could have technically done new Pokemon or evolutions, kind of fill out that X and Y Pokedex potentially. Either way, like there was a lot of opportunities to get those new Eevees, and I don't know if those game mechanics might return so soon. It would be interesting to think about, and let's get on to fighting. So fighting Eevee, I think the most common thing I saw was like leveling up with a fighting type move. Problem, Eevee doesn't get those. Well, it gets one. Unless you want to breed detect into an Eevee and then like friendship evolve it or something, then it becomes a fighting. I don't know. I feel like that's a little too tough to do. Like that's a little too convoluted just to like, well, I guess if it's going to be a very powerful Pokemon, you get the one fighting move that Eevee knows that actually doesn't even do anything offensively, and it technically turns Eevee into a fighting type. Like that could potentially be an idea, but just kind of showing like the moveset idea works on a lot of Pokemon. Like if they have an exclusive move that they can use to evolve, I really like that mechanic back in the 4th generation, but with Eevee and fighting types, yeah, not so much. The next idea was the Expert Belt. So I was thinking that with the Expert Belt, you just have that equipped and then you win a battle, and then you also have Eevee get a level up with happiness, and then boom, we can get a fighting Eevee like that. I mean, maybe it even consumes the Expert Belt, so that's where we kind of get like, you know, it wears as a headband, or we get those wrist straps that we saw in the top 5 on the Eeveelutions. I mean, there's a lot of cool ideas here potentially for that Eevee, and now it's time for the last one, Bug. I honestly have no ideas for like Bug Eeveelution. So what I ended up doing was I hit up your boy Dan, aka A-Drive, and he responded with a couple of ideas on the fly. Like he didn't have any time to think about it. I just texted him, I was like, dude, you have like 3 minutes if you want to be in a video. Give me something, I'm making this now. In some kind of forest. Like if you go to the beginner forest and if it doesn't have the mossy rock, or if you're not in that area, you can just evolve it around bug type Pokemon, and that's how you get your Eevee set up like that. Maybe a new item like a bug item or a cocoon kind of item that helps out bug type Pokemon, you give it to Eevee, and then it can kind of show that metamorphosis. Like these are his words, I really like it. You know, you have something that kind of shows that Eevee is going through that metamorphosis into a bug type Pokemon, since that's pretty crucial to bugs, and maybe even like a new bug type move that Eevee gets through level up, or potentially a TM. Like if there's a global, you know, there's how Power Up Punch is learned by a lot of Pokemon, how Return is learned by every Pokemon, Toxic is learned by every Pokemon. Maybe there's something that almost every Pokemon, if not every Pokemon, gets as a TM, or at least Eevee can get it, and then you just teach it that through TM or even level up, and then Eevee can use that to kind of evolve at like level 30. If it knows this move, level 30 or more, max happiness, boom, you get a bug type Eevee, and I think all will be well with that. So thanks, A-Drive, for hooking me up on that. Maybe I'll remember to put his videos and description and stuff like that. Now, another thing was, what if they don't introduce new Eeveelutions, but they kind of add typings to existing ones, or they just evolve again? What if Jolteon evolves into an Electric Steel, and then Vaporeon Water Poison, and Flareon for Fire Dragon? So we could technically get 3 new Eeveelution types, but that's where we start getting into some weird situations, because the Eeveelutions need to have the same stat breakdowns. So that would be like the first case where a Pokemon finds a way to evolve, or maybe there's like a revertible evolution because Eevee is that crazy. So I mean, you can like transition between the forms, or maybe they don't evolve, they just get extra forms and they play just a little differently. Now, Vaporeon Water Poison would be really cool because it wouldn't get Toxic stalled. Fire Dragon on the Flareon would be nice because it'd be like Reshiram, but a physical Pokemon. So I mean, you get that Outrage on the Flareon, you get that Flare Blitz, and maybe it could do a couple more little sweepy things while having that Fire Dragon typing. And the reason why I think that this works out is because, look at Vaporeon. It has Acid Armor. This Pokemon is oozy. It also plays like just a filthy Toxic Staller anyway, so I mean, it could be Water Poison. That actually plays really well with Vaporeon's lore. Same with Jolteon. Jolteon, it's needles. Like, it's supposed to use electricity to kind of like sharpen its hair and turn it into spikes. Well, I mean, you think of like steely hardened spikes, Jolteon fits that, so Electric Steel. Also, I do think it would be cool to see another Steel Electric evolution out there. I mean, with like the Magnet Trio, they're kind of limited. They have a really set kind of idea to how their design plays out. So with Jolteon, it gives us a little bit more of a dynamic aspect to it, and having a Steel Electric Eevee would be pretty badass. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.